Hi, in this video I'm going to show you some of the things I did to make my locomotive, the McCallum, run better. This is the most recent locomotive I acquired from SMR Trains, and it came with factory installed pickups on the tender on both sides, and we'll find later that those tender pickups were part of the problem. The locomotive has a Soundtrax Tsunami light steam decoder that I installed, and the decoder works fine. And in this little clip here, you're seeing me cycle through some of the sound effects and the headlight, and I even added a firebox flicker. But what it'll do is the engine was stalling and it was shorting on the sharp curves of my layout, so I had several problems I had to fix. Here you'll see it stall in a second, and eventually trace this stall to the tender. And the eureka moment came when I decided to do a tender swap with the Witten. Since the Witten's decoder was removed for repairs, I used the tender from that locomotive to just isolate the problem. The Witten's tender works fine, and it was very interesting to see that the McCallum was running fine without stalling with the Witten's tender. So that told me that the pickup issue was probably somewhere in the tender, although I was able to address it by adding more pickups to the pilot truck to have even more pickup and make the engine run more reliably. But this is the eureka moment here, and you can just barely see that firebox flickering in the light there through the rear drive wheel. Those extra wires you see, I had to rig up a little harness because I had different kind of plugs on the Witten versus the McCallum. Little stall there, probably because of dirty track. But it was a eureka moment, so let's see what I did to get this thing to work. This shot shows the decoder installation. That purple thing inside the boiler is the actual decoder. The speaker fits nicely in the firebox. This shot shows the modifications I made to the tender. Those wipers I added to help improve the pickup, but it turns out the factory installed wipers are interfering with the frame of the tender. There's a small screw on the top of the tender frames. I don't have a picture of it here. And that was bumping against the frame and causing the frame and the wheels to lift up and just not track very well. I filed away and ground away some of that frame, and that let the wheel spin properly, and it created much better pickup. I also added pickups to the front truck on both axles. The factory installed wipers only on one axle, and it doesn't work very well. And then I added weight to the pickup of the pilot so that it would track a little bit better. This shot shows some of the scorching I was getting from the shorts on the valve gear and the cylinder. I was also getting a short in the tender. I solved the valve gear shorting and the cylinder shorts by raising the front of the locomotive about 1/16 of an inch using a new spring, slightly stiffer, with some extra washers, and that was enough clearance to allow the locomotive to negotiate even the tight radiuses on my layout. This video here shows the tightest curve on my layout, which is a 28-inch radius, and it gets through. The engine does seem to lose some tractive effort through binding, and either the extra wipers I added or some other factor is causing this locomotive to lose some of its tractive effort. I do want to check the journals in the U-joints. I think I may need to put some Loctite. They may be slipping because I had to take them off to disassemble the tender at some point, and I may have popped them. But overall, I'm very pleased with how McCallum is running now, and you can see it here cruising across the bridge. And finally, I put this clip in to show the Witten with the QSI sound chip, just to remind you how it sounds. It's a different sound. I think the QSI is a more mechanical sound, whereas the Soundtrax seems more synthetic, although they're both made from live recordings.